And we're back. Uh, Back to the never-ending article. I'm hoping today to actually get through the whole fucking thing. It depends on how much commentary I have to offer, how many bullshit things I have to go over, I guess. All right. Back we go. Um, White nationalism targets the Star Wars franchise. On October 19th, 2015, 4chan trolls and members of 4chan's poll board, a Gamergate forum, began the hashtag boycott Star Wars 7. A or the that whatever. Uh, a self-appointed troll under the username Darkly Enlighten, now suspended, tweeted that the new Star Wars movie, Star Wars 7, barely has any whites in it. um, hashtag boycott Star Wars 7. The tag was meant to direct hate towards people of color cast in the upcoming film The Force Awakens, including Oscar Isaac, Lupita Nyong'o. I don't even remember who that would be, and John Boyega, with the brunt of the attack focused on Boyega. As I've already mentioned, as far as I know, most fans who are critical of these films actually like John Boyega and his character, and really wish that, you know, both the actor and the character had been treated with more dignity than they were. Um, anyway, but I mean, you pointed out that they're pointing out in this article themselves that this is 4chan trolls, you know, and like I've already said, it's like, yeah, 4chan does all kinds of weird shit, and it's just to fuck with people. It's not, oh, we're trying to stir up hatred or whatever. No, just we're trying to show how stupid everybody is, and they succeed time and again. Um, you know, like barely has any whites in it. It's like, again, the fans who didn't like the film, uh, uh, whether there were any white people in the damn thing, wouldn't have mattered. I mean, it could. It's like if it had been a really good film, you could have had like an all-black cast. I mean, you could, well, I mean, did people hate Black Panther? I mean, that movie barely has any white characters with speaking roles in it. But you know, did people hate it? No, people liked it. People liked that movie because it was fairly well done. This is this is the thing. Like I said, it's like the left or whoever, they always want to complain that, oh, somebody didn't like this. That's because they're evil racists. Except, no, they didn't like it because it wasn't good. It's always it's like leftists can't, or more often than not, leftists don't seem, at least modern day leftists don't seem able to create things that are worth watching, that are worth reading, etc. They make garbage entertainment, and when people don't like it, they just claim that, well, the only reason why people like it is, or didn't like it, is because they're racist or they're sexist or they're homophobic. They're never willing to admit that the reason the audience doesn't like it is because it's not good. It's because you failed. Damn. Seem to be more congested today. All right. The Twitter event spurred dissent from liberals and progressives, expressing outrage against the hashtag. Analytics firm Physiology, okay, reported that 6% of tweets were considered racist, and even then they were simply trying to get people mad. Okay, no shit. Mashable concluded that the tag wasn't an actual racist movement. No shit. However, as mainstream coverage was writing off the racist hashtag as the work of trolls, it was. You admitted yourself it's fucking 4chan trolls, dude. It was just a troll. Get over it. A white supremacist hate group was taking credit for the tag. Oh, and here we bring up something again. It's like I don't know who these people are. I've never heard of them. On October 20th, 2015, Michael Thompson, who operates under the pseudonym Paul Kersey, a noted white nationalist. He's not very noteworthy, in my opinion, because I think in passing I've heard people mention the name Kersey. I think a couple of times, and that's it. So this, it's like he's not all that well known. Apparently, I no barely heard of him. Noted white nationalist and founder of the blog Stuff Black People Don't Like. Never heard of that. Published an article, asterisk, claiming credit for the hashtag. Okay, but you've already stated it was 4chan trolls. So if some dickhead claims, I claim credit for this, it's like, but we already know that it wasn't you. Then what does it matter whether he takes credit or not? It's, this article was published to VDare. Again, I have no fucking clue who VDare are. Never heard of them before. A designated hate group by the SPLC. Well, again, the SPLC designates everybody that says something they don't like, that says something against the leftist narrative, as a hate group. So the SPLC designating somebody as a hate group, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean a goddamn thing. No one should listen to the SPLC. As a matter of fact, as I've said before, the SPLC themselves should be considered by everybody to be a hate group. VDare is most noted for using Breitbart to spread anti-immigration sentiment. Again, being anti-immigrant, or anti-immigration, rather, is not, it's not, doesn't make you a white nationalist or whatever. It generally, wanting a strong border generally makes you a nationalist, but there's nothing wrong with being a nationalist. Everybody acts like nationalism is a bad thing, or the left does, but that's because they hate, they hate borders, they hate they hate sovereignty. They want, like a one world order or something, where nobody gets to, choose their own direction. They want to do the choosing for you, and we should all we should all reject that, and we will regret if we allow them to choose our path for us. I mean, letting the leftists be in charge of anything it's like putting blind people behind the wheel of a vehicle. They don't know what they're doing. They're gonna plow you right into a tree or something, and kill everybody. They're utterly incompetent. Anti-immigration sentiment. With the goal of achieving public approval for White House advisor Stephen Miller's Trump-era immigration reform. To the extent that I know what that was a good thing. It wasn't strong enough, honestly. I mean, it kind of doesn't matter now, like I said, because the United States is going to collapse in the near term. But if you wanted any chance to save the country, then you really probably needed to bring an absolute halt to immigration for an extended period of time. I don't know, 20 years, maybe 50 years. Like again, it's like in order to have new people that like the very idea. I mean, assuming that it is even possible, because how long have the Italians and the Irish been here, and they haven't fully integrated into American culture? They still maintain too much distinctness of their own. But so there's reason to believe that it wouldn't ever, that populations that don't, that aren't compatible with the founding population group. America was founded as an English nation, um, and people who aren't English are possibly never going to fully integrate. But to stand any chance of even partial integration that would allow for um, the country to continue and be at least somewhat united, it requires time, and you can't get, it's like you can't. Like everybody talks about the fucking melting pot, which on the one hand is bullshit, but on the other hand, it's like the point of a melting pot is you melt the different things together and they become one, not they stay separate. That's not what that's not what that means. So you need to give a population group that's entered the country time to assimilate and become more like, you know America, more like the Americans that were already here, and that only so many people can be assimilated into our culture at one time. And when you keep him on importing a million or more every single year, you know, pretty soon there's no Americans left. There's just, there's just foreigners, and like I said, that's incredibly unstable. But anyway, like I said, it's essentially too late to do anything about it now. It's America is finished. Um, but immigration is always treated like the left is a good thing. Of course, the real reason that they want it is because they think that they can, I mean, that's why the Democrats switched. They worked real hard in the 60s to switch immigration from Europe because they couldn't get enough Europeans on board with their ridiculous leftist policies. So it's like, okay, well, we need to start importing people from the third world that are more likely to vote for us and our dipshit ideas. So that's what they did, and it's worked out for them fairly well. Although, not entirely. I mean, considering the shenanigans that had to go on for them to get their way this last time, indicates that they really don't enjoy popular support. So now they decided, well, fuck it, we don't, we just completely abandon any sense of fair play. Anyway, the day before the hashtag trended, Thompson tweeted on his account at BWLH underscore, no plans to see Star Wars 7. No, why no white males? Parentheses, young white males cast in lead roles. Hashtag Star Wars The Force Awakens. The racist hate was picked up from the main Star Wars hashtag and spread through 4chan and Twitter. Well, I mean, there were at least two young white males in, I suppose, lead roles, sort of, except they were the bad guys. You had, Kylo Ren. He's white, and at least I think he is, isn't he? Isn't Adam Driver white? Or does he not count? Is he like Jewish or something, so he doesn't count? I don't know. And then what the fuck was his name? General Hux, is that his name? and he was actually, a ginger. Like, that's really odd to see one of them these days. But again, he's, both of them are bad guys, and also, it's like General Hux is, you know, constantly being humiliated and belittled, and uh, Kylo Ren is shown to be, just an immature brat. Throws a tantrum when he doesn't get his way. Yeah. Um, but again, it's like when I saw the film, um, I hated it because it's not Star Wars, because it's a bad story, etc., etc. But I honestly didn't even particularly notice, let alone fucking care that, oh, there's no white male lead. There's no young white male lead that's the hero. It's like it didn't even really occur to me. I was like, it's because it's not important. As much as this article and everybody on the left is always trying to pretend like everybody, all of the fans who don't like the woke bullshit movies, or everybody on the right or whoever, as much as they want to pretend like we're all a bunch of racists or something and that's what we care about, it's not true at all. It's like they're the ones who are focused on race, and we just want a good story. And if it's a good story, it doesn't matter. You know, doesn't matter at all. We're happy. It's like the Chinese are not. you know, the Chinese don't want to see a black face. They don't want to see John Boyega on the poster. They want him shrunk down to almost nothing on that poster. They don't care for black people apparently in China. Whereas like I said, you give us a good character, and honestly, Finn was kind of the closest thing to a good character you had in these films, or at least among the new characters. Actually, possibly again amongst all of them, really, because it's not like the old characters played by the original actors were actually given any respect or good send-offs or anything. It's like they were, treated poorly for the most part. All right, and then I got these pictures here, screen caps. No plans to see Star Wars 7. Why no white males? As though anybody really gives a shit. Young white males cast in lead roles. And then another tweet. I hate Star Wars 1. I assume that's Episode 1. Mace Windu and that black alien Jar Jar Binks. Okay, as far as I know, all of the fans liked Mace Windu. Well, I mean, obviously, not all the fans. I'm sure there's some detractors, but the vast majority of all the fans actually liked Mace Windu. They like Samuel L. Jackson. The only thing missing, perhaps, was his signature MF bomb. But as far as I'm aware, people liked Mace Windu. They thought this a cool character. Even if he comes off as a bit of a dick in the first film. And as far as Jar Jar Binks, it's like, again, I don't think anybody gave a shit that he was voiced by a black dude. Although, again, the presumably unintentional racism of Hollywood, making all of the Gungans sound like black people who can't speak proper English, and making the Gungan marching band or whatever that plays at the end of the movie, people that I saw the movie with observed that is a black marching band. Like that, it's like it is a clear caricature going on here. What the hell? Anyway, but people's problem with Jar Jar Binks is, and I think the reason why Jar Jar Binks happened probably was because George Lucas's kids were of a certain age where he was, I think putting in this character to appeal to younger children. And look, being and I was of that similar age probably uh, when I was watching Star Wars as a kid. The movies and the cartoons, not it's like I liked. Um, I will freely admit that the strongest film in the original trilogy is The Empire Strikes Back. However, my personal favorite is and always will be Return of the Jedi. And I never had a problem with the Ewoks. As a matter of fact, I liked the Ewoks movies. I thought those were pretty cool when I was a kid. I watched those. And I also watched the Ewoks cartoon and the even shorter lived, unfortunately, Droids cartoon. Both of those were really cool. I like those. um, and quite a number of Star Wars fans apparently didn't like the Ewoks, and I don't understand the hate for the Ewoks. I really don't. Um, I can understand if you don't particularly love them or anything, sure, but did you hate them? It's like why? um, and I didn't personally hate Jar Jar Binks, but I did recognize that the character was it it just felt out of place. Like is a little too silly, you know. It's like it felt like I mean, Star Wars always had some degree of humor in it, but at the same time, it's also got, kind of been serious, and it's hard to when you got like these foreshadowing things for what comes later going on with with Tatooine and Anakin and whatnot, and you've got Jar Jar there stepping in feces and dicking around in the background with the droids and getting kicked in the crotch by by one, and you know trying to eat a dead frog whole or something, shoplifting essentially. And it's just it's too much. It's too much, it's too silly, and it didn't fit. And so I think a lot of people recognize that and again, had nothing to do with, oh, it's voiced by a black actor. Nobody gives a shit who's voicing it. They care that the character feels out of place, that it feels, like we've treaded too far into silly comedy territory or whatever. It's like the tone is wrong. Uh, anyway, Japanese Star Wars trailer downplays the role of the black guy. Which black guy? Samuel L. Jackson or uh what was the guy's name? Ahmed Best. Which one? And the movie looks that much better. Few blacks equals movie gold. If the Japanese Star Wars trailer actually did, it's probably a reflection again on the fact that Asians, are more racist than white people on average. Actually, it is a statistical fact that white people, that Caucasians, are actually the least racist population group on the planet. Interesting fact. We're the ones that are accused of it most often, but we're actually the most accepting of outsiders. Oh well, yeah. No good deed goes unpunished. um. Anyway, few blacks equals movie gold. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like these tweets from this dude are bizarrely they're just bizarre. I mean, yeah, they appear to be racist, but it's just it's just really bizarre. It's like I would think that I mean I would have thought that most racists, especially on the internet, would be maybe a little. I mean, you're always hearing about it's a dog whistle, and it's like, is it? You know, do because if this guy is being held up as an example of an actual racist, I'd say that actual racists apparently don't use dog whistles. They just come right out and say, "I hate black people." It's like, what the fuck? That's weird, but whatever. Patton Oswalt, uh, occasionally funny, but mostly cringe. I feel like the boycott Star Wars 7 will be revealed as an SJW trolling prank, but just in case, it's so fucking sad and funny if real. And then this dipshit replying, "Oh, it's real." Oh, pardon me. I inadvertently started it on Sunday when I noticed Star Wars has no new leading white male actors. Um, yeah, but isn't that the sort of thing that a troll would say? I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's so bizarre. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's something about these tweets that rings false to me. Um, I mean, obviously, I don't know, but I have heard people in real life say racist things and harbor racist sentiment, and usually it was directed at President Obama, but occasionally just black people in general or something. Um, the tone of people making such statements always has there's always something in it that it's like, yeah, you can tell, you know, they they have visceral hatred for, who they're talking about. And these, I mean, admittedly this is just text, but it doesn't come off somehow as, you know, as any sort of visceral hatred. It comes off as somebody who's just trolling. It's like they're too. It just comes off as too lighthearted and too much like just having fun with this. you know, haha, I hate blacks. Ha ha ha. It's like it doesn't feel genuine somehow. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe this guy is like a genuinely horrible racist person. Don't know, and frankly, don't care. You know, it's like you're trying to it's like they're trying to say because this one piece of shit, assuming he really is racist and not simply trolling, um, because he exists and he said these things. That means everybody who doesn't like the Disney trilogy are racists. Like, no, no, doesn't work that way. Racist tweets against Star Wars Episode 7 by Paul Kersey. Oh, wait a minute. Damn, uh I'm stupid. Paul Kersey. Uh that isn't that the name of the main character from the Death Wish movies. So that would be where I've heard the name. I was like, I know I've heard that name someplace, and I was thinking, uh, I've heard it, like I've heard, I don't know, Alex Jones or somebody, but I think I was confusing that with uh, Jerome Corsi being talked about by Alex Jones, and and Paul Kersey is a fictional character. Okay, so all right, so I really haven't heard of this guy, this you know BWLH Paul Kersey, whatever the fuck, Thompson, yeah, um, what was his name? Michael Thompson. So I've actually never heard of this Michael Thompson guy. Never heard of him. All right, on VDare, Thompson writes, "Say what you will, getting people to think in the terms a movie is anti-white is a huge positive because it allows them to consider the notion of their own disposition, especially if they've never even thought of this reality before." Um, Maybe this is what, like white identitarians or whatever were trying to go for at some point in the past, but I don't think they need to at this point because, forget, supposed anti-whiteness in some movie, which, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, maybe the casting choices were made, entirely by accident, or maybe it was very much on purpose by the people who made the film because they don't like white people. You never know. But that sort of thing is not necessary. You don't need to try to be like, oh, you see, they're subtly being anti-white in this movie. You don't have to worry about that anymore. It's like, the news and whatnot is blatantly anti-white all the time now. So, damn it. So yeah. So yes, I don't know, but I would say that the anti-whiteness of the left is, and ironically, of course, most of the leftists who are the most vehemently anti-white are themselves white. It's weird. On Twitter, people were considering these white supremacist ideas, including user at angry GOTF fan. That would be, well, Joffrey Avatar, so that would be Game of Thrones. Who tweeted that weekend in support of the hashtag, the hashtag boycott Star Wars 7 people have a point, hashtag problematic. And here's the tweet with a picture. They're not entirely accurate there. The good guys, and you got Rey, she's white. John Boyega, black. Oscar Isaac, I would have just guessed that he was white, but apparently Hispanic. And I guess that's the Nyong'o or whatever woman. I don't actually remember her from the film. Honestly, I don't. Was she even in it? I don't think she had a major role to play. And then the bad guys, and yes, Andy Serkis was the voice of Snoke, and General Hux and Kylo Ren, but Max von Sydow or Sydow or however they pronounce his name, he wasn't a bad guy. He was barely in the film, but he was a good guy, I believe, who gets killed in the opening scene. So. But yes, I mean, the only two young white males, I guess, that have leading roles were the bad guys. But, that's. But criticizing it based solely on that is no different than, people saying that, oh, the only, like, take a different movie and it just so happens that, the two prominent black characters are both bad guys. And it's like, oh, it's racist because you're making the black people to be the bad guy. No, it's not. It's not racist just because of that. Or frankly, the same thing if you cast a movie or a TV show or even a fucking book, and you have a group, a group of like four friends or whatever, and all four of the friends happen to be of one ethnicity or another. All four of them are white, or all four of them are black, and they don't have any friends, or at least not any close friends, that are of another race. And people act like that's racist, and it's like, no, it's not. You take any random group of four friends, and probably they're all going to be the same race. It's just how it works. Not it's like television and movies may have tried to portray that everybody has a surprisingly diverse group of friends, and it's like, no, you don't have, two white kids, a black kid, and an Asian kid, all be friends. It's like, that's not common. It happens, but it's not the way that it is all over the country or the world all the time. It's ridiculous. Even in a relatively diverse country like America, you still are mostly going to find homogeneous groups of friends or whatever hanging out together. Not always, but often. And acting like that's racist is just stupid. The text was included above a picture that insinuated that the new Star Wars film was anti-white because people of color being portrayed as the good guys and white actors were playing the bad guys. This image would also appear on the website, of white nationalist podcast and band YouTube channel Red Ice. I'm not 100% sure whether white nationalist is entirely accurate about Red Ice. It seems like I watched one or two of their videos back in the day, and wasn't overly interested in them. They were I do believe they were white identitarians, but they seemed primarily concerned with the idea that white people were under threat, which not entirely wrong. Although the idea that white people are going to go extinct is, I think, a little bit ridiculous. Similar to Thompson's article on VDare, the white supremacist site, again, if you're concerned about, if they're talking about Red Ice, and it's like, you said white nationalist, and it's like, maybe white identitarian, I think, but white nationalist, maybe. But then you switch to white supremacist, and it's like, no, they're not. Oh, and here we go. Like, that claimed boycott Star Wars 7 has opened minds to the concept of white genocide. Now, white people going extinct is, kind of, is not very likely at all. But, genocide being committed against white people in certain places, like South Africa, for instance, yes, that's a very real thing. But again, if you're worried that your people are going to be genocided, I don't think that's an indication that you believe your people are supreme. Anyway. So again, misuse of the term supremacist, and also, I'm pretty sure, complete lie about them being white supremacists. Like I said, I believe they're white identitarians, but that's not the same thing as white supremacists. And by the way, just as a side note, it's like believing that that your group of people, whoever that happens to be, deserve the right to continue to exist is not the same thing as believing you're superior. It's like, you're not if you believe white people have a right to continue to exist, that's not being a white supremacist. It's just, but that's the sort of thing that you get from the left, is them accusing people of that. The site continues with anti-Semitic conspiracies, claiming that Star Wars The Force Awakens is being called anti-white propaganda. And Twitter is ablaze with users calling J.J. Abrams a Jewish activist. Well, I believe he's Jewish, but I don't know that he's an activist. The only thing J.J. Abrams is actively doing, as near as I can tell, is, well, it's, like Doomcock says about him, he's a cultural, vandal, cultural locust. It's like he goes from company to company under the guise of being some great director or whatever who can do great things for your properties, and then he just takes pre-existing IPs and destroys them. Because it's like he's not some wonderful original creative person. He really just destroys. um, Recently, somebody pointed out that supposedly Apple had offered him twice as much as Warner Brothers to come work for them to do original programming, and JJ declined that offer and went with Warner Brothers. Why? Because he knows he's not capable of doing original programming worth a shit. It's like he doesn't want to take on a job that he's ill suited for. He knows that he's not really very creative and he's not very good at coming up with things of his own. So he wants to go someplace where there are pre-existing properties that he can just, take hold of, run into the ground, and then move on to something else. Abrams and most of the cast of Star Wars are Jewish. Are they? I mean, Abrams is, but is most of the cast Jewish? I'm not clear. Is this the article saying this, or is this still supposedly what Red Ice or somebody's saying? I wouldn't think that most of the cast was actually Jewish, although certainly um, there are Jews are disproportionately represented in entertainment and finance, and everybody. It's like when you recognize that fact, a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's anti-Semitic." No, it's not. It's just recognizing a fact. And I said, before, white people are, Caucasians are the least racist group, least racist, ethnic group on the planet, which is true. And I think whites are perhaps the only population group that exhibits out group preference. Like they actually, will go out of their way to help people that are not part of their group, whereas most other groups exhibit considerable in-group preference. And Jews are, despite many Jews essentially being white, they're European Jews, they still exhibit a great deal of in-group preference. So there's a great deal of that, sort of, nepotism and what have you in Hollywood and in finance and whatnot. So that that there are lots of you shouldn't be surprised that there are lots of Jews who are behind the camera or in front of the camera, including some of them like Abrams, who are really not very good at their job, but somehow they've managed to convince people to think of them as though they are. It's like you have people who are good at their job, like Steven Spielberg, and then you have people like Jar Jar Abrams, J.J. Abrams, who they're not good. It's like they're not. People treat him like he's the new Spielberg, but he's not. He's not even close. Does Star Wars propaganda connect with the protocols of the Elders of Zion? It seems like I've heard of that a few times over the years. I've never bothered to look it up. I'm not really interested. I don't go in for the whole Zionist conspiracy theory bullshit. Uh, I mean, I'm certain that Israel, just like many other countries, is forever trying to interfere with other people, and I feel certain that. Well, I mean, it's not a feeling. I mean, it's obvious. How many times has Benjamin Netanyahu, come and done some sort of presentation to Congress or whatever, trying to get America to go to war with Iran? You know, Israel is forever wanting America to engage in interventionism in the Middle East, probably because they legitimately think that America bombing their enemies or potential enemies over there is going to do them good. But I think it really just stirs up more and more popular uh, hate for Israel and for America in the region. So, I think Israel is not making not making good judgment calls there. Like they're like, oh, bomb Iran, that'll be good for us. And it's like, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be nearly as helpful to you or to anybody else as you think. Now, you want America to they probably were thrilled at the idea of America invading Iraq. They're like, oh yay, it's like invade our enemies. Except, what did they get you? They got you ISIS. It's like it doesn't, no. And for some reason, they really want to topple Syria, but that's not going to have any good results either. It's all these things are just stupid. All right. The boycott would also draw the attention of Holocaust denying publisher Chuck Johnson, on the former site Got News asterisk. Seems like I've heard of Got News. I don't know that I ever read anything there. I don't recall having heard of Chuck Johnson, though. Where he wrote, quote, is the very white Star Wars being culturally appropriated by the Jewish J.J. Abrams? Star Wars is a productive of a white America, whether or not we want to accept it. The action figures that made George Lucas a billionaire were purchased by suburban white families. I have no idea about this Chuck Johnson person or his denying the Holocaust. I will say something about the Holocaust. There were more than just Jews who were killed in the Holocaust. The Nazis exterminated many different kinds of undesirables. The Jews get all the attention from history, but they weren't the only ones. They killed off people who had who were crippled or birth defects or whatever. They killed off gays, et cetera, et cetera. They killed a bunch of people. They killed a bunch of people that they didn't want. Not just the Jews. And also, there's probably no way to know precisely how many Jews were killed by the Nazis or were exterminated, like gassed or shot or whatever. One thing that probably a lot of people, including America, doesn't really want to take into consideration is the fact that some of the Jews that were in the camps probably starved to death because the Nazis weren't able to get food to them because America and the Allies were bombing the shit out of Nazi infrastructure. I mean, that's probably part of what happened. In modern times, people seem to have forgotten that war is a really, really nasty business. And there's a lot of unintentional casualties in war. This is why we shouldn't want war, why we should really want to try to avoid it, if at all possible. And, war should be the last resort. Unfortunately, these days, because, especially in America, it's like we can go and bomb people and just like they can't really retaliate, and we have the resources to do that while not having to do without anything at home. You know, used to when there was a war on, it's like, you know, people were drafted and also everybody went on rations. It's like, things were, you didn't get to just enjoy your life as normal. There, it was called, there was such a thing in the past as the deprivations of war. um, anyway, I mean, pointing out, asking if Star Wars being culturally appropriated, that sounds kind of like you're being trolly and you're flipping it around on the lefties. Um, as far as Star Wars being white, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, originally you have to admit, there have been jokes for some time in Star Wars fandom about, Lando Calrissian is the only black man in the galaxy. Which there were other black actors, but like they were inside the stormtrooper outfits or something, so you didn't see their faces. Uh, so in the original trilogy, yeah, of the people who actually get screen time, you got a bunch of white people. But you know, that was kind of you know typical once upon a time. That a lot of people, unless you were setting, unless your setting lended itself to having a lot of black characters or something, you tended to have mostly just white actors and things, you know, in the movies. But anyway, uh, and as far as the final statement there, the action figures that made George Lucas billionaire were purchased. Yeah, by and large they were. That I mean, it's a true statement. I don't know that it has any uh, significance or value, but it's accurate. Less than a year after supporting the racist hashtag on Twitter, angry Game of Thrones fan would be sitting next to neo-Nazi figurehead Richard Spencer, VDare's founder Peter Brimelow, and Jared Taylor, founder of the of the white nationalist group American Renaissance at the 2016 Republican National Convention. Okay. I've already pointed out that Richard Spencer is a piece of shit. Um, VDare may be as well. I don't know. I don't know anything about them or their founder, Peter, whatever the fuck. Jared Taylor, unless I'm very much mistaken, isn't he the guy that Stefan Molyneux interviewed about race and IQ? And everybody acts like that is racist, but it's not. It's just it's an it's an observation about reality. It is true that different different population groups have different average IQs. Um, Caucasians have an average IQ on average. I mean, it's different. It's a little bit different between different nations or whatever. Like traditionally, I think Germany is probably one of the higher IQ populations, um, but generally, whites have an average IQ of around 100, and like in uh, the Middle East and North Africa, I guess probably South America or Central America, whatever, uh, you know, the brown populations, you might say, is lower. I forget what the average is. I think it's around 90 average or something like that. Maybe somewhat lower in some areas. Part of that may be because of the influence of Islam, because Muhammad told people that first cousin marriage was acceptable, which it shouldn't be. That's inbreeding lowers IQ. So I believe in some countries it's probably more like 85. And sub-Saharan Africans, I believe, have the lowest average IQs. I think they're 70, 75, something like that. That's that's pretty low. And again, that's average. That's the midpoint. So half the people are dumber than that, but half the people are also smarter than that. So, um, and East Asians, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, have the highest. Their average IQ is about 105. And it's interesting that people who accept I mean, again, this is stuff that's been tested. It's empirical fact, and people who accept this and talk about it, and probably some of them at least want to figure out why this is and see if there's a way to raise everybody's IQ to better all of humanity, but they're all called racist, and if they're white, they're called white supremacists. And it's like, that's stupid, because people who accept the race and IQ connection also accept that East Asians are smarter than white people. So how can you be a white supremacist if you accept that some other population group is better than you? it's just dumb. Soon after, angry Game of Thrones fan would change his Twitter name to Jack Posobiec. Oh, okay. So Jack Posobiec, huh? Oh, pardon me. And rise to fame as an alt-right, no, not alt-right, leader pushing dangerous conspiracy theories such as Pizzagate. We've already covered that. Pizzagate was real. I mean, it's not, the bullshit false idea of what the theory supposedly was pushed by the media is not real. That's their bullshit attempt to discredit it. But it was a real thing that was suspicious. Alongside Mike Cernovich, Posobiec currently serves as a host on far-right media network One America News Network. I would probably question whether you should consider OAN to be far-right. They're right. I mean, it's like people talk about Fox like they're far-right. They're not. They're establishment right. They're more, kind of more bullshit centrist than anything. Some of the hosts are certainly right leaning, but that's about it. Fox is really just corporate bullshit. And for a little while, it looked like Newsmax was going to be an actual right leaning organization, but they cucked after the election. After the fake election. So they're fuck them. They probably still have a couple of hosts that are decent, but the rest of them are a bunch of bullshit. So fuck them. One American News, I think, has actually kind of stayed the course and is actually decently right leaning, but not far right. That's really just not true. It should also be noted that Posobiec would establish a direct connection to Thompson during the publication of No Campus for White Men, The Transformation of Higher Education into Hateful Indoctrination. Well, I suspect there's probably a lot of truth in that book. No Campus for White Men is a book written by Scott Greer, a friend of Thompson's and former editor and columnist at the Daily Caller. I think they've been going downhill, but kind of a decent website once upon a time at least. The book's foreword is written by Yiannopoulos, while Cernovich takes center stage on the book's jacket. Okay, great. According to Right Wing Watch, more leftist bullshit peddlers, Posobiec and Thompson may have also been connected through MAGA 3X, a group of white nationalists, doubtful, who tried to manipulate social media to influence Trump's candidacy. Posobiec would also play an important role in the next iteration of the 21st century online culture wars, the spread of hate against Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Oh, man. The new Gamergate, the rise of alt-right ideology in Star Wars fandom. I cannot believe how much longer this fucking article goes on for. I I gave up on trying to do this all in one night. This is just I don't. How many days am I going to be here? There's so much bullshit to go through in this article. It's unreal. Um, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, released on December 15th, 2017, to universal acclaim from critics. Again, who the fuck cares about the goddamn critics? We don't give a shit what they have to say. And a glowing audience score from CinemaScore, probably manipulated, because I'm sorry, it was a terrible movie. I can't really believe that people actually liked the movie, because it was garbage. The only statistically sound audience score available to the general public. Yeah, that sounds like the others didn't agree with the narrative we want to push, so this is the only one we're accepting. The movie would go on to gross $1 billion in less than 3 weeks. Yeah, basically entirely upon the name Star Wars. And become one of the most successful movies of all time. Again, because not enough people were turned off by the first one, by The Force Awakens. I was, but not enough people were. So they were still able to get a bunch of people suckered into seeing it. And then they saw it, and then they didn't see the next Star Wars film because they're like, oh, God, this is Disney Star Wars is shit. Yet, even with its obvious success, the narrative surrounding the film claimed that the movie was one of the most polarizing Star Wars movies ever released. Yeah, definitely. And Ruin Johnson did not help things by the way that he talked to the fucking fans. This narrative was overwhelmingly driven by the film's Rotten Tomatoes audience score that currently sits at a rotten 42%, and that's probably after multiple purges of negative reviews, and calls from vocal fans on Twitter to fund a remake of The Last Jedi. Yes, and I think that was something that the leftists, the FJWs were fucking complaining about. They're like, do you really believe they're gonna remake it? And it's because there was, I think there was is that just Slate? No, but if there was, I believe, like a change.org petition or something for remaking The Last Jedi, or something. I think I think there was for that, but there definitely was for Game of Thrones. When they fucked up the last season of that, there's definitely a petition for that, and it got, I forget how many signatures, but well over 1 million. People were like, fucking fix it, and and everybody's bitching about how you don't really think they're going to do that, and it's like, no, nobody thought that. They're just voicing their outrage at how they fucked up. It's like, and probably the same thing is true of this about fun to remake of The Last Jedi. It's like, yeah, I don't imagine that people actually expected that to be a thing, but they wanted to make it clear that this is garbage and we are not going to fucking just accept it and and act like you've done a good job. It's like, no, you've done a bad job and we're letting you fucking know about it. According to @RM The Last Jedi, the account behind the campaign to remake The Last Jedi, the film was bad because the creatives behind the film lost their way from the hero archetype. Well, among many other things, yes. There isn't much explanation on what this means beyond Kelly Marie Tran's Rose Tico failing to live up to this fan's expectations of being a badass pilot. Well, I've already mentioned about the characters derailing Finn actually getting to be the hero at the end of the film. I think most people consider that the treatment of Luke Skywalker's character was the biggest insult of all. The way that he was, it's oh God, I don't even want to think about it. In fact, many complaints against the film are aimed at its female characters. Well, I mean, again, Rose Tico is not a particularly great. I mean, like her sister who dies in the beginning of the film, might have been, might have been a worthwhile character to have, but instead it's like, no, let's kill her off, and then let's have Rose Tico, electrocute Finn, be generally, sort of a bitch, care more about the fucking horse rabbits than she cares about the slave children that are caring for the horse rabbits. Uh, and have her nearly kill Finn to save him from sacrificing himself in order to save everybody else. So that everybody else, so that without Deus Ex Machina, everybody else would have fucking died because of her actions. It's like her character did a lot of bad shit. Her character was fairly, awful. That's nothing against the actress, but the character, the way she was written, the way that she behaved in the film, terrible. Um, and as far as other female characters, I mean, again, you had Vice Admiral Holdo, and just again written poorly. You know, has a plan but refuses to explain it, and causes unnecessary division. It's just bad writing. They wanted conflict, but instead of finding a clever way to do it, they just did it stupidly. Um, you know, Leia, you know, kind of being a bitch to Poe. Uh, she should check her white privilege. Hitting a man of color. Um, and yeah, I mean the beyond stupid, Mary Poppins Superman thing where she's blown out into space and then just wakes up. She's been out there for who knows how long, but she wakes up and force flies her way back into the ship. It's just so cringe worthy. Um, and then of course Rey, who's just a Mary Sue. And the SJWs keep on trying to say that she's not, but she is. She's very obviously a Mary Sue. She didn't have to didn't have to work to become great. She just is. From the word go, she's just the bestest ever. It's one fan illustrated this when he released an edit of The Last Jedi with all women removed. I seriously doubt that would actually make the film better, but I don't know. Maybe, maybe it's worth. Well, I'll see if I can actually find that, and then maybe I'll give a review of it. If I can find it and watch it or something, I'll give a review of it later. Sad Man cuts together 46-minute. Maybe that means there's only 46 minutes of the film that doesn't have women in it or something. I guess I don't know. Short film then. Actually, that might be the saving grace of it. Is not the absence of women, but just the fact that it's so much fucking shorter. It's still awful, but it doesn't take nearly as long to watch. Yet, even as sexist motives behind the backlash, no. The vast majority of people, like I've already said, the vast majority of people didn't like it because it's a bad movie. It's not because they're sexist. It's not because they're istophobes. Okay, it's just not. You really want to drive, you really want people to fucking believe that horseshit, but it's not true. It's a bad film. That's why people don't like it. Always what the left does. They will not acknowledge that they, have made something that's not good. They just say, oh, you don't like our garbage because you're an istophobe. It's like, no, we don't like your garbage because it's garbage. If it's like, if you did it well, we would like it. It's all that's required. But they use it as a shield against criticism. and it's wearing thin. Like fewer and fewer people are really willing to accept any of your excuses. Like, yeah, at some point, nobody is going to be willing to accept this narrative of, oh, they don't like it because no, no. At some point, most people are going to be like, no, they don't like it because it's bad, and you need to shut the fuck up with your endless whining. Uh, and as an alt-right Facebook account, again, not probably not alt-right. Don't know. Not gonna bother looking into who that is, but probably not alt-right. Claimed credit for the review bombing of The Last Jedi on Rotten Tomatoes. More on this one later. Yes, I've already mentioned that. I've already mentioned they're claiming that, oh, you're review bombing it. You're reviewing it before the. Nope, that's not what happened. Rotten Tomatoes had up the question, for people to answer. Do you want to see this movie? Are you interested? And people were saying, no, not interested. That's not a review bomb. That's a lie. No one could escape the narrative that The Last Jedi was divisive. Well, like I said, it was. So, although it's only divisive because SJW shitbags, like the people who wrote this article, are unwilling to accept the reality that it was simply not a well-made movie. That's the only reason it's really divisive. Is like most people recognized, it's not really that good. Some people were like, like even the casual viewers were probably like, it's not really that good. And that's why they didn't turn out, in the same numbers for the next Star Wars film. But the hardcore fans who actually know something about Star Wars were all like, this is garbage. This is absolute horseshit. This is not Star Wars. And the SJWs are busy sitting over there saying, people only hate this because they're istophobes. Not true. Not true. From a data analyst's perspective, there isn't much that is divisive about an exit review poll of an A. Of an A? I don't know. Well, there's a lot of people who fall for hypnosis. Like, give them enough explosions and they're like, oh man, it was cool. It's sad. Which, unfortunately, that is probably part of the reason why movies keep on going downhill. Like they're not as good as they used to be, is because audiences are getting stupider. Like they are. I mean, it's a fact. The IQ, is the average IQ is dropping. People are more and more willing to accept shit. And the more they're willing to accept, the more they're going to get. And a movie that grosses as much money worldwide as the much anticipated final installment of the Harry Potter franchise. Harry Potter is a rant for another time. Naysayers will claim that the movie is a failure because it didn't gross as much as The Force Awakens. Well, I think that probably is an indication that you're not building more audience, you're losing audience. But benchmarking a second film in a franchise whose value is partially tied to the fact that the franchise had produced no content in more than 10 years, not the best approach. However, the debate raged on. You can claim that it's not the best approach, but it is an indicator that, you're like The Force Awakens disappointed some people. Not enough to see a big drop, but it disappointed some people who recognized that this is not as good as people seem to think it is. And also, frankly, the big gap is part of why you got so many people willing to accept The Force Awakens, which was it was a weak film. It was not well done, but they're willing to accept it more enthusiastically than they should because they're desperate for content. They're like, oh, finally a Star Wars film. I've been without my favorite drug for so long. Yeah. Anyway, so for the sake of argument, once again, no metric that isn't an internal brand tracker or segmentation within Disney will be as statistically accurate as the cinema score. Don't know about the factualness of that statement. I'm guessing that at least partially they went with cinema score because it fits the narrative they're trying to construct. I wanted to conduct a sentiment analysis on two major social media platforms, Twitter and YouTube. If this movie was truly polarizing, there should be positive or to negative sentiment ratio 1-to-1. This means that for every positive tweet or YouTube video, there should also be a negative tweet or YouTube video. Wonder if they're going to share their methodology on that. Probably not. Additionally, if The Last Jedi truly divided fans, we should see a similar mix of the type of accounts spreading positivity or negativity about the movie. One thing about it, as I've already said, it's like if people are still passionate about it, that in a way that's kind of a good thing, for the franchise. But some people don't spread quote unquote negativity about something when they've been turned off to it. Sometimes they just disengage. And you can't really track people who become apathetic to something and just don't talk about it anymore. It's like, oh well, how how do you account for that? You can't. In other words, tweets getting the most likes are YouTube videos receiving the most attention in the search algorithm should proportionately come from people with similar backgrounds, and I don't know. I mean, that would depend. I mean, YouTube manipulates their algorithm all the time, so I don't think you're going to get any accurate readings on anything that way. Backgrounds here is defined as affiliations people have with a certain profession, such as a journalist, or community online, such as YouTubers. We should also see both positive and negative sentiment from average fans rising to the top of the conversation. Was The Last Jedi polarizing? A Twitter analysis. To get a strong idea of sentiment on Twitter, I analyzed over... Notice that we've switched to I statements all of a sudden here. It's interesting. Wonder if we've got a different writer doing this part of it. I analyzed over 1 million tweets from December 2017 to November 2018, collected at various times between 2019 to 2020. Please see the methodology section. Oh, they are sharing that again. At the bottom of this article for full details. Used two different methods to analyze sentiment. One, the positive to negative sentiment ratio of top words by volume, and two, positive to negative sentiment ratio of top tweets, defined as any tweet with greater than 1,000 engagements. Both methods allow for manual correction of what constitutes a tweet as positive or negative. This means that the analysis is not left up to simple matching of positive or negative words. The keyword matching method can be misleading because, for example, a tweet containing the word liked would be classified as positive when matching positive keywords in a set to positive keywords in the data. However, most tweets using the word liked include the text, I liked a video on YouTube. Really? Are there a lot of people who make tweets that say things like, I liked a video on YouTube? I don't know that I've ever seen a single one that said that. This tweet is actually neutral and can skew the model. Well, no shit. Furthermore, tweets that are positive can use negative keywords and vice versa. Well, of course. Method 1. Top words by volume. Oh, God. I hate these kind of infographic things. I really do. Method 1. Top words by volume. A common practice in text analysis is to see which words are used the most within a sample. In this case, I was looking for words that were used more than 10,000 times. In order to accept my hypothesis that the positive to negative sentiment ratio would be 1 to 1, I expect to see a word like love used as often as a word like hate. However, that is not what I observed in the sample. I don't. I don't know. I don't. I mean, I'm not real big into analyses and things, but I gotta say, it just it just strikes me right off the bat that this doesn't sound like it's probably going to yield an actual correct result. It just doesn't. Um, I mean, for one thing, Twitter is, as far as I'm aware, overwhelmingly left leaning. So most of the people on is like Twitter doesn't represent, you know, a good cross section of the population of America, much less the world. It's full of a bunch of leftist SJW types, and there are certainly a vocal minority that are right leaning, but although fewer and fewer as Twitter purges their accounts these days. But anyway, it's just not. You're never going to get a balanced sample because there's not a balanced you know representation of the populace on Twitter. Twitter is not entirely, but it's almost a left wing echo chamber. After removing positive keywords that could be attributed to neutral conversations, such as liked or like, remaining positive keywords used for the sentiment ratio consist of the following: love, favorite, enjoyed, great, best, good, and amazing. Again, without context, that really doesn't mean anything. Negative keywords used for the sentiment ratio include worst, hate, shit, and bad. Most used positive keywords make up 143,548 total tweets, while most used negative keywords make up 67,246 tweets. That is a positive to negative sentiment ratio of 2.1 to 1, meaning that the conversation about The Last Jedi on Twitter likely leans positive. Well, again, Twitter leans left, so I'm not surprised that a bunch of SJW shitbirds are talking about how great this movie is. Especially if they know that people on the other side of the argument don't like it. People on the on the other side of the aisle don't like it. Oh well, we love it. We love it because they hate it. Word cloud. Yeah, I hate these fucking cloud things. I really do. Top words used mentioned The Last Jedi, December 2017 to November 2018. Minimum frequency 10,000. Okay. It is important to note, however, that tweets with negative keywords are more likely to have positive connotations. Tweets with positive keywords are mostly positive, barring several tweets that could be considered good-hearted fun versus a positive statement about the film. For example, the two visualizations below show all tweets mentioning The Last Jedi, with top positive keywords visualization A and top negative keywords visualization B, respectively. The tweets have been separated into two groups: one, tweets that are at or above the number of average engagements per tweet, and two, tweets that are below the number of average engagements per tweet. There are no statistically significant differences between average engagements, replies plus comments plus likes, per tweet for top positive versus top negative keywords. Both keyword groups have about 10 average engagements per tweet. Tweets with negative keywords consist of a handful of tweets that have engagement significantly above total engagements of other tweets. The majority of these tweets are negative towards The Last Jedi, but instead are not negative towards but instead are mostly tweets in defense of the film that contain negative words. Visualization A, tweets mentioning The Last Jedi with top positive keywords by number of total engagements. Pardon me. You know what? I loved The Last Jedi. I loved Kelly Marie Tran as Rose Tico. I loved Laura Dern as Admiral Holdo. I loved Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker and Luke's character arc. Well, your taste is extremely questionable then. I love Daisy Ridley as Rey. Again, I love the direction the story took. I drank it all in. Well, you drank something. The Kool-Aid. I was awed. I had a blast. You sound like an idiot. My favorite Last Jedi scene. The ending credits. When you knew that the suffering had ended. The Last Jedi is the best movie ever made. That's either a fucking troll or that person is one of the dumbest sons of bitches on the planet. The best movie ever made. My God. Star Wars nerd number 1. I have seen The Last Jedi 10 times already. Star Wars nerd number 2. Oh, you can count? Good for you. Nerd number 1. And you can count on me waiting for you in the parking lot. Okay. Whatever. In 20 years, we're all going to agree that Star Wars The Last Jedi is the best of the series. No. No, that's never going to happen. It's the first Star Wars movie since 1977 to be about something beyond being a Star Wars movie. That's not true. And Rian Johnson is the strongest filmmaker to ever work on one of these things. No, he's the weakest. I mean, that's saying something considering that, J.J. Abrams sucks so bad, but Rian Johnson is worse. He's a piece of shit. So I see common criticism of The Last Jedi that hinges on the supposed waste of time of the casino storyline. Well, I mean, it's weird that they do that. I mean, it does feel like, it feels like it doesn't really belong. And also what they did there is like, what the fuck? I feel like this take requires you to ignore the best line in the whole movie. Here we go. Spoilers. I'd be interested to know what the fuck the best line in the movie is, according to this idiot. Last Jedi is so good, I cried on the sidewalk after and then got the flu and slept for 12 hours. So that just tells me that we have solid evidence, well, first-hand account at least, that The Last Jedi is literally making people sick. Visualization B, tweets mentioning The Last Jedi with top negative keywords by number of total engagements. Luke's arc in the original trilogy ends with him not only refusing to kill the bad guy, but refusing to even fight a worse villain. This is why Luke's force projection standoff with Kylo, Last Jedi, is so perfect. No, it's stupid. It's the ultimate expression of everything Luke has learned. Nope. You're an idiot. Here is my official review of Star Wars The Last Jedi. All movies are a miracle? What? The fuck does that even mean? It's a teeny tiny play you can watch on your computer anytime you want. Your ancestors would have dropped to their knees and wept in pure wonderment. At the technology, yes. At what was actually being portrayed, no. Show some goddamn gratitude, you shitheels. No, fuck you. You may be grateful for whatever shit you're fed, but not all of us are like that. Some of us have some pride, even though Pride is a sin. J.J. Abrams, that one's for you, Mike. J.J. Abrams finally joining Twitter and having his very first tweet thank Rian Johnson for his work on The Last Jedi as a fuck you to fanboy dipshits is the greatest cinematic entrance of all time. I was not aware of that, but I got a feeling that's not genuine because I cannot. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that J.J. Abrams had something. Not sure how much of a something he had in mind, but he clearly had something in mind when he did the first film. And I think he was surprised and probably not overly pleased that Rian Johnson completely fucked it all up with The Last Jedi, and then he had to come in and try to cobble something together. You know, it's like, God, it's like I was setting Snoke up to be the big bad, and you killed him off. What am I going to do now? So I don't imagine J.J. Abrams actually appreciated Rian Johnson's contributions there. There are valid reasons why you might not like The Last Jedi, but baby men specifically hate the movie because its male protagonists fuck up. No, we hate it because we hate it because the filmmaker fucks up. And when they do, there's a woman in the story who learns from the mistake. No, the women don't learn from their own mistakes. That's a problem. Like, they make mistakes themselves and they don't fucking learn from them, or fixes it or shows them a better way. Just, again, bad writing. This tweet is why so many men had brain meltdowns over Last Jedi. Society has told them if they are not centered, then it's not there for their consumption. I guess that's supposed to mean if they're not at the center of it. Is that what you mean? They can't / shouldn't connect with it. No, I don't think that's an issue. I like stories with female protagonists. You know, I often prefer those stories, but the female protagonists need to be well written. Stop teaching boys this bullshit message. I don't think anybody's actually. Well, actually, it's the left who's saying that. By the way, it's not. It's like, it's not society that's telling, oh, men can't connect with it. No. That's the left. The left is the one who says, oh, you can't. Black people can't appreciate a film if there's not a black person in it. If they're not represented, they can't connect with it. If there are no gay people in the film, gay people can't appreciate the film because they can't connect with it because they're not represented. It's the left who pushes this bullshit idea of representation. A handful of The Last Jedi haters in my mentions are offering up a fascinating misreading of the final showdown between Luke and Vader in Return of the Jedi. I think it's worth taking a moment to discuss, because it may help explain why these guys hate Luke's character so much in Episode 8. Well, it would be lovely if we had some fucking explanation of what that supposedly is. What is that misreading? I'd be very interested to know whether that was actually a misreading or whether no, they got it and you are a dipshit. Wouldn't surprise me. The Last Jedi felt like the first actual movie in the Star Wars series since 1980 that wasn't rote continuation. Vibe they lost with Return of the Jedi was back. Fuck you. Absolute horseshit. It was hilarious that the worst nerds in the world have forced themselves to hate it. It's so fucking good. You don't have to force yourself to hate it. I don't know that you have to force yourself to like it. Stupid people, stupid SJW dipshits may very well like it very easily, but those of us who don't like it, we don't have to force ourselves not to like it. That comes very easily to us because it's garbage. And unlike you, we actually have good taste. Just by deleting only 25 tweets that are considered false negatives, above, visualization C, average engagements per negative tweet dropped from about 10 average engagements to about 7 average engagements. This suggests that positive tweets about The Last Jedi received more engagements on average versus negative tweets about The Last Jedi. Visualization C, tweets mentioning The Last Jedi with top and negative keywords by number of total engagements, 25 false negatives removed. Method 2, top tweets by engagements. In this second method, I manually classified sentiments for tweets with greater than 1,000 engagements. In this group of 955 tweets, if that sounds like a low number to you, remember that 80% of tweets are driven by 10% of users. I would expect tweets with the most engagement to be both positive and negative. The film was truly polarizing. However, there are more positive tweets in the sample versus negative tweets, with a positive to negative sentiment ratio of 3.4 to 1, 213 positive tweets versus 62 negative tweets. This means that tweets with most engagements mentioning The Last Jedi are positive. Okay, this entire thing is to some degree, like I said, a total waste of time and not able to give you an accurate representation of what the general sentiment of the public is. Why? First of all, a shit ton of people are not on Twitter. Secondly, I mean, at the time I wasn't on Twitter. I am on Twitter now, but I personally, there are plenty of films and TV shows that I don't like. But when I do like them, or when I don't like them, either way, I don't feel the need to tweet about it. I might actually be well, I don't know. I might be more likely to tweet about something that I really like rather than something that I really hate. Although that's another thing, because a lot of people, it's not so much that they really hate something a lot of times. It's just that they're disinterested. And when you don't hate it and you don't love it and you just have apathy towards it, you can't track that because those people are disengaged. You're not going to find tweets about whatever it is from those people. They're just like, fuck this, and they're out. They're just gone from your audience. So, I mean, this is is some of this information maybe worthwhile? Maybe, but by and large, it feels like a waste of time. Tweets mentioning The Last Jedi with greater than 1,000 engagement by sentiment. Negative, neutral, positive, unknown. It's always weird when people tweet something and you can't figure out what they mean. Like, are they they just say something that's like, what do you mean by that? I also wanted to know who was behind these negative or positive tweets. I found that across both positive and negative groups, accounts belonging to, and that's another thing, even people who are on Twitter, it's like, technically I'm on Twitter, but I don't really go on Twitter hardly at all. It's like I'll go these days mostly either to check for like news from some particular creator or something, trying to figure out what's going on with them, or to try to contact somebody specifically about a specific thing. I don't just go on Twitter and look at what's going on, because it's a gargantuan time suck. You can spend countless hours Yeah, I mean, like multiple times I spent like, I don't know, 6 or 8 hours just looking at, shit that was going on my Twitter feed. And it's like, at some point, you just have to recognize that, look, there are other things that I need to be doing. I can't fucking sit here and dick around with Twitter all day. You know, so probably everybody in the world would be better off if they came to the same realization and just kind of left Twitter and things like that and just were like, yeah, no, social media is not that great, because it isn't. I mean, it's kind of, you know, it's a waste of time. Pardon me. What else I want to know? Blah blah blah. Found that across both positive and negative groups, accounts belonging to journalists and news publications drive conversation. Surprise, surprise. Almost a quarter of positive tweets and around 20% of negative tweets are tweeted by accounts associated with journalism. Not true journalism, of course, because as we've already discussed, that doesn't exist. Positive tweets are driven more by average fans or people who did not associate with a profession in their bio, noted in the classification as other, than negative tweets. 23% of positive tweets are classified as other versus 16% of negative tweets. Almost 40% of negative tweets are from accounts with a gaming, YouTube, or Twitch profile in their Twitter bio or profile versus only 10% of accounts tweeting positive things about The Last Jedi. When combined with accounts who link back to their YouTube channel but are not associated with gaming, almost half of all negative tweets are from accounts who direct Twitter users to a YouTube or Twitch profile versus only 15% of positive tweets. This suggests that a considerable amount of hate against The Last Jedi is generated on YouTube. Again, they keep talking about hate like it's a, oh, you're manufacturing hate. You're a hate merchant. There's, some. It's just like they don't like the film. I mean, why do you even fucking care if people don't like it? If you like it, then just enjoy it. You don't have to listen to the people who don't like it. Positive tweets with greater than 1,000 engagements by account affiliation. Count of tweets. It does seem very low count of tweets. Journalism, other, author, illustrator, actor, musician, YouTuber, gaming, podcaster, YouTuber, non-gaming, writer, director, unknown, comedian, parody, executive. Negative tweets with greater than 1,000 engagements by account affiliation. YouTuber, gamer, or gaming, journalism, other, YouTuber, non-gaming. It's also pretty low fucking numbers. Oh, they're the same numbers, right? Are they? No. They're close on some of them. YouTuber gaming, 21 positive, 23 negative. Seems kind of balanced on that. I don't know. Other YouTuber, non-gaming, unknown. Author, illustrator, comedian, podcaster, actor, musician, author. No executives. No negative executives. All right, blah, 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 blah. Before analyzing sentiment on YouTube, however, I wanted to see if there is a concentration of alt-right. You don't know what that means, so you are not going to be able to tell us. Or right-wing reactionary, again, with the, trying to label things reactionary, it's, just say right-wing. Just say right-wing. Why can't you do that? Why do you have to say alt-right? Why, you're misusing that term, and why do you have to say reactionary? You're trying to brand people for either positive or negative tweets. For this analysis, I decided to make alt-right and radical right-wing associated accounts their own affiliation. This means that, for example, if the account was previously associated with journalism, alt-right/radical right affiliation would take precedence and become that account's affiliation. Leftist obsession with labeling everyone. Gotta divide everybody up. Put them in their box. Put them in their own little box. You're not allowed out of your box. Stay in your lane. This new methodology did not change the categorization for tweets that are positive about The Last Jedi. Of course, because, there are no positive things said by people who are right-leaning. They're evil. All of them. However, it did significantly change the results for tweets that are negative about the film. Yes. Negative tweets with greater than 1,000 engagements by account affiliation. New methodology. YouTuber gaming. Alt-right, radical right. 23%. Journalism, other, YouTuber non-gaming, unknown, author, illustrator, comedian, podcaster, actor, musician. Do we get to see the methodology on this one at some point? Almost a quarter of tweets spreading hate against The Last Jedi are from alt-right / radical right-wing affiliated accounts. Almost certainly not, because you don't know what that, you're misdefining those terms. So anyway. Notably, accounts affiliated with journalists or news publications in the first methodology dropped from 19% of tweets to 10% of tweets after performing this analysis. Tweets that are classified as other also dropped from 16% to 10%, indicating that a portion of average fans are affiliated with alt-right networks. Again, the bullshit on the usage of that term. Specifically, the previously mentioned account at RM The Last Jedi, which is an alt-right affiliated account by your classification. Yeah, is the person who made that account, do they consider themselves alt-right? And if they do they consider themselves, or did they consider themselves alt-right the way that I briefly kind of did, as somebody who recognized I'm on the right, but I'm alternative to the right-wing establishment? Or the toxic version of alt-right co-opted by people like Richard Spencer, who, by the way, as I've already mentioned, is a leftist. He's a fucking socialist. So he can claim he's on the right all he wants, but his policies, leftist policies. So fuck him. Should be noted that top engaged negative tweets against The Last Jedi also include 2 left-wing accounts, 3% total tweets, including Will Miniker, a co-host of socialist comedy podcast Chapo Trap House. What the fuck is that? Who has been involved in sexist controversies of his own. Well, you just said he's a comedian, right? So, probably just means you don't like his comedy. Negative tweets with greater than 1,000 engagements by account affiliation. Blah, blah, blah. Do you know I finally watched The Last Jedi and I feel like it was the cinematic equivalent of ISIS smashing up a museum? Yeah, I would agree with that. ISIS was well known for destroying cultural relics that that weren't Muslim. Destroying, Sumerian statues and structures and what have you. An awful lot of archaeological sites were absolutely destroyed by those fuckwads. And yeah, it was, The Last Jedi was essentially like it's cultural vandalism. It was a sort of, it doesn't obviously like destroy the existence of good real Star Wars, but people who are sufficiently invested can easily feel like, I feel like they have totally trashed something that I loved. I didn't really feel that way by the time The Last Jedi came out, because I'd really already recognized where things were headed and pretty much disengaged from it and decided, you know what, fuck it, I don't care what Disney does. Their Star Wars is not actual Star Wars, so I'm done with it. I'll watch it just to see what, how bad they do, but I don't really care. Our team of producers is offering to cover the budget for a remake of The Last Jedi in order to save Star Wars. That'd be wonderful. Share this and spread the word to let Robert Iger and Disney know you want this. This isn't a joke. We're ready to have the convo now. Remake The Last Jedi. Um, well, it's too bad that didn't happen. Of course, that's the thing. It's like Disney and other corporations, when they fuck up, I mean, when they really shit the bed, they're you know, it's standard procedure essentially for them to pretend like everything's fine. They can't admit their wrongdoing. They have to pretend like everything's good, and people who complain, doesn't matter how many of them there are, they're just assholes. We don't care, you know. But for some reason, they will answer the left when the left does shit like, oh, you're being racist, blah 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 blah. You know, then they're like, oh, whoa, wait a minute, whoa, we're not racist. You know, they care about that kind of criticism, but legitimate criticism of you have made a bad product, please change course and make a good product so that we can buy it. You know, it's like you're being bitched at by left-wingers who mostly don't spend money. They mostly don't buy your fucking product. They just bitch about things because they like to bitch about things. And you'll bend over backwards to do things for them, to make them stop attacking you for being istophobes. But when people who actually have a long history of spending money on your product say, we don't like the product, you've changed it in a way that we don't like, please change it back to be a better product so that we will continue to buy it from you, you know, and they're offering you actual money, and you're like, fuck you, bigot, get out of here. We don't want to hear your complaints. It's seriously fucked up. Last Jedi post-credit scene should have been those horse creatures getting put back into captivity and Rose getting a bill for damages with a note reading, your recent actions on Canto Bight were pointless, much like your involvement in this film. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's you know, I mean, you have the opportunity to save horses, you know, well, horse things like horse. They were like horse rabbits or something. You have the opportunity to save animals, or you have the opportunity to free slaves. Now, you offer that choice to right-wing people, and their choice is clear. The slave children get freed. You know, you save them at all costs. Even if it costs your own goddamn life, you save the slave children. You give that choice to a leftist, and they make the choice that the quote-unquote heroes did in the film. Fuck the kids. We don't care about them. Save the cute animals. And that is what the left does. That's what you see time and time again with leftists. They're more likely to care about a dog or a cat or a horse or whatever than they are about people. Even children. Positive tweets with greater than 1,000 engagements by account affiliation. Blah, 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 blah. The Last Jedi was so incredibly well done. No, it was not. So well shot, maybe, and brought me back to watching Empire for the first time. Well, Empire is a very good movie, but I don't understand why you would want to watch it after watching this, except to be able to watch good Star Wars, real Star Wars for a change. Okay, we saw it. Woo, Last Jedi. Okay. The Last Jedi is on Netflix. And I just watched it for the second time since I saw it in theaters. The theme, oh boy, my themes of abnegation of self, Abnegation of... What are they talking about? And the masculine ego are rampant. If you say so. Obviously, I guess they're talking about the shitty way that the male characters were treated. And that's supposed to be a good thing, I guess, from the leftist perspective. No wonder the man babies got so worked up. Again, it's like that was part of it, but it's just, it's only part of the bad writing. In my opinion, the right story for the right time. Okay, that's part of the problem right there, actually. This idea of the right story for the right time. Star Wars should be timeless. Star Wars is one of those things that should be something that it's not hooked into current, pop culture or current, current political things, etc., etc. It shouldn't be connected to current day. It should be, if you want to put something super subtle in there, maybe, but of course the left can't do subtlety anymore. They're so fucking heavy-handed. But it really needs to be something that you can watch it, in any decade, and it's still a powerful thing entirely on its own. But that's the problem. The left doesn't do that anymore. The left nowadays, all they know how to do is make current day propaganda film, and it will always feel weird, removed from the time period in which it was made. Better on the second watch? No. It would never be better on the second watch, or the third, or the fourth, or fifth. It's not going to get better. Worse, perhaps, but not better. Aside from the Twitter accounts seeking to remake The Last Jedi, alt-right or radical right accounts also included Rubin Report. Again, Dave Rubin he's a leftist, pardon me, who got left behind, as it were, by the left as they moved further and further and further left. So calling him alt-right or radical right is ridiculous. It's like he's not even truly right-wing. He is what used to be considered left of center, but the Overton window or whatever has moved so much that he's now considered right-wing. But even if you consider him right-wing, barely so. Okay, he's more centrist than anything. Whose show has platformed racist alt-right guests. Who the hell are they talking about? Are they talking about Milo Yiannopoulos? PragerU's influence. Okay, Dennis Prager is not alt-right, for God's sake. First of all, I thought part of the thing about the alt-right is that they're supposed to be they're supposed to hate part of what they've been accused of is hating Jews, right? Richard Spencer, neo-Nazi, presumably hates Jews. If he really is a neo-Nazi, he's alt-right. He's the one who poisoned the fucking term for everybody else who was using it. But we're supposed to believe that Dennis Prager, who's Jewish, he's alt-right. And again, he's an establishment right-wing guy. He's the like Ben Shapiro. These people are the approved opposition. They're the people that establishment on both sides doesn't have a problem with, really. They may claim they do, but they really don't, because they know these guys are never going to say anything too radical. So suggesting that these people are is stupid. It's an utter lie. So either you know that and you're fucking lying about it, or you're just too goddamn dumb to know what you're talking about. Shapiro has been particularly vocal against The Last Jedi. Well, good for him. I don't like Ben Shapiro, but I'm glad to know that he at least has some taste in Star Wars films. Is the former editor at large, although it wouldn't surprise me if he liked The Force Awakens. Former editor at large of Breitbart from 2012 to 2016 during the publication Spread of White Supremacist. Again, what you're trying to say that you're trying to conflate all this shit together. You're trying to say that, oh, look, here is Ben Shapiro. He's an evil alt-right person. Also, he's Jewish. By the way, so is Dave Rubin. By the way, so is Dennis Prager. Also, they're all alt-right. Also, the alt-right are a bunch of neo-Nazis, and they're anti-Semites. And it's like, no, that you can't have all of this together. You can't have a bunch of Jews be alt-right who, you define as being neo-Nazi types who hate Jews and accuse them of anti-Semitism. You can't have all of that together. You can't lump all this shit together and pretend like it somehow fits. It doesn't. Spread of white supremacist bullshit and anti-feminist. Well, anti-feminist, yes, and there's nothing wrong with that. Not anti-women, not anti-female, but anti-feminist, yes, that's fine. Views into the mainstream, and is the current host of right-wing talk show The Daily Wire. Yes, we know that. Shapiro, and like I said, I'm so fucking glad that I don't have to. I'm so fucking glad that I do not have to see his videos in my recommended feed anymore on YouTube. There's one every now and then it'll still pop up, but thank God most of them have stopped showing up, because used to it was nothing but, I got recommended, Ben Shapiro video after Ben Shapiro video after Ben Shapiro video, and also, of course, Jordan Peterson. Neither one of them did I want to watch, but it kept being recommended. And something that still occasionally gets recommended is shit like Fox News, and it's like, I don't want to watch that either. It's like, not interested, not interested, not interested. Finally, most of it will go away. But YouTube really wants you to watch, the approved opposition and corporate media. Shapiro is known for denying human rights abuses. I don't... What? Denying human rights abuses? What? Including his claim that members of the LGBTQ plus... You keep on adding to that acronym. It's just ridiculous. I mean, if you're not going to stick to something simple, then there's no point. They've kind of shortened it now to using it like that as LGBTQ plus, but there's a whole bunch of other shit that's already tacked onto it, and they keep on adding more to it. And it's like, at some point there's no point to it. There's no reason to keep doing that. I mean, what? All right. Community do not face discrimination. Well, let's see. What is that? Breitbart editor Ben Shapiro says LGBT community does not really face discrimination. Well, that's SPLC again. Okay, well, fuck them. They lie about everything, so fuck them. But as far as claiming that they don't face discrimination, I mean, do gay people get discriminated against? Yes. But is it super widespread like it used to be? Are there, hateful anti-gay people behind every, tree in the country? No. Like most people don't care. Like they may not want to see gay people getting it on with each other, but if as long as you do that in private, they don't care. Like, oh, you're gay, it's like, okay. No, nobody gives a shit anymore. Nobody cares. Also believes that homosexuality and identifying as transgender is a mental illness. Well, I've already stated that I pretty much agree with that on the transgender front. I suspect that is a mental illness, essentially. Something has gone wrong in your brain. And I think it's reasonable and compassionate, quite frankly, to figure out what causes that, so that hopefully a cure can be developed and it be offered, not forced, offered as an option for people suffering from that. And also I will go ahead and point something out. Um, I'm talking about people who like really truly believe that, who really truly believe that, for instance, they're a woman but they're trapped in a man's body. You know, they were born in the wrong body or whatever. It's like, you know, that I believe is you know, it's a mental illness. There's something's gone wrong. You know, and you're mistaken. It's like your body is fully functional and it works properly. There's a software problem. There's something wrong in between your ears. Okay, you know, not not you know, not blaming you or hating on you for that. It's just what it is. However, it should be pointed out that there are people who may claim to be transgender or may not necessarily claim to be transgender, but may be identified as others as transgender, and really they're just like gay men who want to live life as a woman. You know, maybe like they don't have any interest in getting the surgery, except maybe like breast implants or something, but they want to wear makeup and wear female clothes, and they want to they want to be treated. They want to look and be treated like women, and as long as you look the part, I have no problem with that. It's like if you can't be bothered to shave, and you look like a fucking linebacker in a dress, I'm not going to I'm not going to be like, yeah, sure, I will call you whatever you want to be called. I'll call you, her. It's like I'm not going to do that. But if you if you look the part, I don't have a problem with calling you she. You know, that's what you want. That's fine. You know, I would potentially even be open to dating, a dude that was like that. You know, assuming obviously compatible personalities and whatnot. But it's like that is it's like as long as you understand that you're a man. You're pretending to be a woman, but you understand that it's just pretend. That's an indication that you don't have. There's nothing wrong upstairs. It's like you have a desire to do that for whatever reason, but I don't consider that a sign of a mental illness. Like if you really believe something that's obviously not so, that's a mental illness. But if you just want to be a certain way, it's like that's fine. Whatever. Don't it's not a problem. Um, believes homosexuality. I don't believe homosexuality is a mental illness. Um, I don't know what causes it. I don't know what affects I don't know what affects physical attraction. What would make you more attracted to men than women, or whatever, or vice versa. I don't know what really affects that, and I don't know. Uh, but that's the physical side of it. Um, Emotionally, I can totally uh believe that people could that you could fall in love with someone of the same sex as opposed to the opposite sex, and that you'd want to you know share your life with that person, and I totally respect that, and that's you know I think if you can manage that with anybody, doesn't matter what the plumbing is, then go for it. Life's too short to not embrace love if you can find it, and that's not a comment about sex. That's a love. That's not fornication. That's love. uh anyway, and I don't really care about what Ben Shapiro has to say. He's got a super weak sauce argument about how marriage is only for the purpose of having children. It's like, okay, so that means that anybody who's sterile shouldn't be allowed to be married, right? Anybody who's too old to have children shouldn't be allowed to be married. That's his fucking argument. Pardon me. About why gay marriage should not have been allowed. It shouldn't be allowed because marriage is for the purpose of producing children. That's his idea of an argument. It's not a good argument. Maybe, I mean, there may very well be good arguments against gay marriage, but his argument, not one of them. He sucks. Anyway, okay, here we go. Mark Hamill, for centuries, men have had their chance to rule government with middling to poor results. Who's ready to let women take charge completely? Just women. I know I am. Okay, so that's basically Mark Hamill virtue signaling. The Last Jedi just got even worse. Yeah, it did. Watching Last Jedi, but forgot my headphones, so just making up better dialogue. Luke apologized for tossing the lightsaber. Snoke admitted he's Darth Plagueis. Rey found out she's Obi-Wan's granddaughter, and Finn and Rose just talk about how stupid the whole casino scene is. Yeah, that sounds like a better movie. Would have been nice. Other examples include hate against Rose Tico, pushed by an avidly pro-Trump Twitter account and a writer for the Babylon Bee. The Babylon Bee's hilarious. They're awesome. A conservative satirical site that is used that used the cover of satire to joke about the Capitol insurrection and make snide remarks against Black Lives Matter protests. Fuck you. The Babylon Bee's great. The Columbia Bugle. Truthful and America First conservative political commentary. Our hearts are in the trim. Conservative outlet. The New York Times. Sounds like good people. Yeah, The Last Jedi is by far the stupidest movie ever made. I'm not sure about that, but it's certainly it's close. We win not by killing what we hate, but by saving what we love. Fuck that shit. Boom. Very good point. Very, very good point. Frank J. Fleming. Is that LMAO or IMAO? I don't know. It's too late to fix The Last Jedi. Yeah. Just start episode 9 with Rose being executed for treason for her attack on Finn. Obviously that's, somewhat, hyperbolic, over the top, but it does make a good point. As I already pointed out, it's like, yes, Finn was about to save everybody's lives in what was a heroic and perfectly reasonable under the circumstances at the moment act. And Rose was like, no, I won't let you be the hero and save everyone. It's so stupid. It's such bad writing. All roads lead to YouTube. Okay, I'm going to have to call another break here. We're about to get into the YouTube segment. It's like they're probably going to talk about, some channels that I know about. So, this will probably be require a bunch of commentary on my part to point out how they're lying about people. So, let's come back to this after a break. Oh, God.